Galera, finalmente Halo tá ganhando a sua adaptação live action em uma série de TV. Eu tô louco pra ver os episódios, comentar aqui o que eu achei, mas por enquanto eu tive acesso a uma outra coisa muito legal. A Paramount Plus, que é o serviço de streaming que vai passar a série, convidou o DNM para ir até a cidade do México, no México, conhecer mais dos bastidores dessa série. Eu conversei com o próprio Master Chief, o Pablo Schreiber, sobre as inspirações para fazer esse papel e sobre as experiências de como foi gravar a série de Halo, e conversei também com a Kiki Wolfkill, que é a produtora executiva da série, que trabalha há uma década com a desenvolvedora 343 Industries. Ela inclusive trabalhou também nos jogos Halo 4 e The Master Chief Collection. Saca só como foi essa conversa. Hello, Pablo.
Hi, Guy.
So you're from Brazil?
Yeah, Brazil.
Nice, exciting.
Pablo, você teve algum contato com o personagem Master Chief ou com os jogos Halo antes de aceitar o papel?
Of course, once I got the role, I dove deeply into the games. Of course, I played the games, but in the amount of time that we had to shoot, I wasn't able to become a professional Halo player. I have a lot of respect for people who play Halo. It's hard. It's not easy, but more so diving into the mythology. Learning the mythology, learning the story that's already been established, not just through the games, which is very in depth, but through all the transmedia that's been established, the novels, the graphic novels, the animated shorts, right? Learning everything that's been established as canon so far, and then of course we're in a separate timeline out of canon, but still using most of the mythology and most of the universe for a backdrop. So just getting myself as familiar as I could with all the story that we were going to be drawing from.
Kiki, como adaptar um universo tão grande e com tantos livros e games para agradar ao mesmo tempo fãs de longa data e um novo público?
With such a big universe, we have a lot of stories to tell, and well-established sort of understanding of what Halo is, and so the adapting of it or the bringing it to life in live action is incredibly exciting, and creatively it's really fun. The bigger challenge really is how do you please every Halo fan out there, which is literally impossible, right? Because we have a very diverse audience. We have an audience where some people love this, some people love that, and so I think the approach for us is how do we take the things that are very core to Halo, the pillars of hope and heroism and humanity and the wonder of sci-fi. How do we make sure we're expressing that? Because that is the very core of it. That's what I emotionally attached to with Halo. And there's all of our stories of Halo out there. This is the show's story. And then we wanted to tell a character story, and by nature, that's very different from how we tell stories in the game. And this is a story about the Master Chief, and more importantly, it's a story about John, right? And his evolution, how he grows as a character. And so I think the hope is that for anyone new, it opens up an amazing new world for them. And for people who are Halo fans, hopefully they can sit back and they can preserve their understanding of who the Chief is and the story is here, while letting us take them on this ride and this journey with our telling of this story, and they can embrace that for what it is and enjoy getting lost in the story and the world as well, and still know they can go back to their own Chief in the game.
Pablo, quando você ganhou o papel do Master Chief, que é um personagem já bem definido, quais características você decidiu retirar e quais você decidiu manter?
I don't know if I thought that anything needs to go. Obviously the things that we all love about the Master Chief, because we've all played the game, so we've all imagined ourselves in his armor, right? And the things that I think we imagine about ourselves when we see ourselves as him is he's a stand-in for bravery, he's a stand-in for courage under the most extraordinary circumstances. He has a great sense of humor, in terrible situations. And then it was not about letting things go as much as adding to it, right? Because the character is, for all intents and purposes, it's from a first-person shooter game, so you're meant to feel like you're him. So it was on purpose, the character was constructed and created vague and opaque, and so that you could put yourself in his shoes, right? Now, if you're making a TV show, it's the opposite. You don't want to keep it vague and opaque. You want to start to break the barriers down. You want to start to get underneath the armor. You want to start to learn a little bit more about the person who is the hero, right? And so it was about adding to, not taking away.
Kiki, a série de TV de Halo foi prometida lá em 2013. Depois de tantos atrasos, o que fez os astros se alinharem para que ela saísse só agora em 2022?
You know, what I would say is from 2013 till now, it was less about production challenges early and more about finding the right creative partnerships. You know, we were so fortunate to sign on with Steven Spielberg and with Amblin right off the bat. And so from there, it sort of had this amazing partnership and foundation to then end up with Showtime. And then there was a lot of time, like figuring out, you know, what a character-driven Halo story could look like. And, you know, once we got into production, yeah, it was hard because we were doing something huge. And then, you know, the COVID pandemic hit. And so, you know, the thing I will say about you know, sort of the time to production is, you know, we are a crew and a team forged in fire now. And it's a crew and team that's so dedicated to respecting Halo and the fans around it. And so I feel like now going into season 2, we're in such a strong position because of all that we endured together in season 1.
Pablo, em uma série de TV, qual é o segredo para fazer um personagem que mal mostra o rosto e suas expressões faciais ser interessante e cativante?
Well, so acting in the suit when you're behind the helmet and underneath the armor obviously has its own uniqueness. There's positives and negatives to it. You know, first of all, when we look at something that's behind a mask or, you know, inside armor or whatever, we bring all of our own human experience and emotions to that process because we don't get to see what's underneath. We read into it a lot, right? And we put a lot of things onto that character. So a lot of it becomes about story. It becomes about interaction. It becomes about putting this character who you can't tell what's happening for them in situations and circumstances where the audience can then read on to them how they feel about it.
Quanto de interferência a 343 Industries teve na série de TV, Kiki? A maior parte das ideias veio dos showrunners ou da desenvolvedora do game?
We worked hand in hand with the showrunners. So it was something where, in doing this, first of all, we come to this going to experts in Spielberg and Showtime and, you know, people who know how to create incredible entertainment experiences. We bring the game and the franchise side to it. And so it was really a partnership. And what we wanted were those creative voices, and we wanted that vision, right, of these creative partners. So it's something we worked together on very much. You know, what we would say is, you know, we'd do these boot camps so they understood the breadth and depth of the Halo universe, and then they would come back and like, here's what we're thinking about doing, here's what we want to do. And we wanted them to have that voice and that leadership.
Pablo, sobre a química incrível que o Master Chief tem com a Cortana nos jogos, como foi tentar fazer isso funcionar na série de TV?
Well, we're not under a massive constriction or pressure to make the chemistry work right away, because in the timeline of our show, we're at the beginning of Chief and Cortana's relationship. So the place that we're at in the relationship is actually them getting comfortable with each other, and it's a bit of a contentious relationship at the beginning, so there's a lot of room for that relationship to grow as the series goes on.
Kiki, além do fato de não estar ligada aos games e do seu formato em temporadas, o que é que diferencia a série de 2022 daquelas outras minisséries de Halo Forward Unto Dawn e Nightfall?
I mean, I think the previous entries with Forward Unto Dawn and Nightfall were definitely sort of very compact stories and in a compact space. With this, the hope is to introduce the universe, right, to a whole new audience and bring more of the universe to life for Halo fans. It's also 9 hours of storytelling, so it gives, you know, the focus again is on the character story, and so I think the focus of it becomes very different than what we've done before. I would also say just the scope and scale of the production was exponentially bigger on this. But the biggest piece of it is we wanted to bring the universe to life versus sort of a slice of it.
Sem spoilers, Pablo, mas qual foi o momento na trama dessa série que mais mexeu com você?
Yeah, one of my favorite scenes, and I think one of the most effective scenes through the series is when Chief learns about how the Spartan program was created, and the fact that Halsey was responsible for essentially kidnapping him and turning him into what he is now. When he learns all this information and then confronts her with it, I think is one of my favorite scenes of the series.
Pois é, meu povo, a série de TV de Halo estreia no dia 24 de março de 2022. Serão 10 episódios na primeira temporada e já rolou uma renovação para a segunda temporada antes mesmo da estreia. Em breve eu trago aqui as minhas impressões no The Anime quando eu assistir tudo. Até o próximo vídeo. Tchau!